What's up, guys and girls? Iceman here. Welcome to Chilling Tales. So this is one for the ages. This is one of legends. This is a story in which inflicted damage and vast hysteria among a Native American tribe a couple hundred years ago. These young boys were just looking for a good time, just like boys today. But what happened to little Hopi and his friend was nightmarish. If you guys will like this video, subscribe to the page, become a patron if you want to support the Chilling Tales. So Cheyenne was a boy about 13 years of age. He had himself a nice tomahawk or two. He was skilled. He would hurl these axes at trees. You'd just hear him whistling through the wind and just smashing into the tree, always landing correctly with this edge into the bark, kind of like this. It was quite an expertise among his tribe, throwing axes, carving spears, just being a reasonable human being at the time, one who could help protect your tribe in battle or against vicious predators. And where this took place was in Wyoming. I don't know exactly where, but they had a little, whatever you call them, a community there. Their tribe did. Beautiful cornfields, this and that. Fishing, a nice little river not far that the boys would go out and fish. But at 12, 13 years old, these boys were becoming men. They were getting put to work, and strangely enough, in their early years, they would play these games with bears. Now, of course, the bears weren't exactly consensual, but bears were generally renowned throughout the Native American communities. Creatures of awe, of inspiration, creatures of respect. You know what I'm saying? So, similarly to how boys today sort of play daring games and this and that, they did it back then too. And what these boys would do, what Hopi and Cheyenne specifically would do, is they'd venture off into the woods. They'd veer through the branches, to the weed, to the mountains, in hopes of finding a Bruin grizzly bear. They'd often find them sort of digging into the ground, looking for worms, looking for bugs, digging into bark. And these guys from their tribe were so sneaky that, and they'd cover up their scent and this and that. They were great hunters. It was a game that they would play where they'd sneak up to the bear, swat it on its ass, and then run. The bear would often lurch around, confused with its big old hunch up in the air. And it'd be so concerned and startled that it often wouldn't chase the boy. Because they're not used to being tampered with like that. It's one thing if you see it and you run, but these boys would go and swat it on the ass and run away. There was an occasion where a bear ended up chasing a boy. And they would often have spears in their hand. And the boy stopped and he pointed the spear at it and he somehow was able to scare the bear away. But that's not how this situation went. So one dire evening, Hopi says to Cheyenne, "Come on, let's go. There's one not far. I saw it before supper." So Cheyenne grabs his tomahawks just in case, and they end up venturing outside of their settlement, or their commune, or whatever you call it, They started tracking this bear. Sure enough, they found it not far down the trail. This massive, hulking grizzly bear with a huge hump on its back. It was just digging into a fallen tree, just digging for grub and everything. Just, and they could hear it just huffing and puffing and digging into it. Hopi says, "Shh. I'm gonna go do it." And the bear was about 40 feet away from him at this point. Cheyenne waits there in awe and watches his young friend, who was about 12 years of age at the time. Cheyenne was 13. Hopi snuck up to the bear. And right before he was able to swat it on its butt, the bear lurched around and saw him. And out of being so startled, it swatted the boy to the ground. Just a huge gash across his neck and face. And it picked him up. And its claws scathed some flesh from his cheek and ripped part of his cheek off. You could see his cheek just hanging there like this. And the bear just ripped him like this. And then the boy went flying to the ground. Just gestures of pain and agony. And that's when the bear attacked. It jumped on top of his carcass and just began digging into the boy. Just the noises he would make were unsettling. Cheyenne is back 30 or 40 feet, just witnessing this massacre. Just the terror that he saw that day. His young friend just getting ripped to shreds by the bear. The bear would pick up his body, boom, wrap its jaws around his shoulder, pick him up, and slam his carcass into the ground, and his carcass would bounce. Like, you ever see anybody bounce when they hit the ground? I remember one time I was running on trails with a girl. She had some masculine energy about her. She was cute though. But I remember we were going on a jog and she tripped, right? And the chick bounced. I was like, what the hell? You know? It's crazy. The chick bounced like boom. I don't know. But she hit the ground hard. Yeah, I felt bad for her at the time. Looking back, maybe not so much. But yeah, I helped her up and I was being a good guy. But I just never really saw someone bounce like that, you know? But that's what this boy did. When the bear had him in the air, boom, just bouncing off the ground, boom, just slamming his ass into the ground. And Hopi was like a rag doll, just his arms just blasting all over the place. You know. It was heinous. And that's where the unsettling thing came in. The confrontation, the ordeal, the ultimatum, if you will. He began begging his friend for mercy. And I'm not talking about the bear. Hopi was begging Cheyenne to do something. Now, he knew Cheyenne wouldn't be able to kill this grizzly. This thing was massive. Probably 1,200 pound bear. All right, some folks think short-faced bears even were around back then. But I mean, I don't think that's what this was, but it was a massive hulking beast. The bear was digging into his chest and he was just trying to block it. Just covering his face, and it'd pry his hands out of the way and just gash at his face again and just bite down into his shoulder, pick him up, slam him into the ground. The bear was standing over him, just panting from all the energy it emitted. Just drool oozing out of its mouth onto this boy's face. And then it began squeezing and just squeezing its claws into his chest. It goes, just the screams this kid would make was just horrendous. And that's when he said it. Cheyenne! Ah! Release my spirit! He begged his friend to kill him. He knew that Cheyenne was great with the axe. He knew that Cheyenne could hit a walnut from about 20 yards away. Big green walnut. Cheyenne was terrified. What? No! No! He held his axe. He was like, no! No, get out of there! Get out of there, Hopi! No! And Hopi was just on the ground, just getting ravaged by this beast. And he shouted again to Cheyenne. Release my spirit! And Cheyenne was like, no, but Cheyenne knew what he wanted. He knew that what Hopi was saying was he wanted Cheyenne to hurl the damn axe at his skull and kill him. Because what he was going through was so painful and his body was so destroyed. He knew he wouldn't be good for the tribe anymore. He knew they'd cast him out on the rocks. His body was disabled at this point. I mean, I don't mean to be politically incorrect, but I'm just trying to say how it was. All right? His body was fucked. All right? And he knew that he wouldn't be useful in the wars or in the parameters, and keeping watch is what part of his job was. Harvesting, I mean, he'd be useless. His hands were shriveled, ripped to shreds. His elbows ripped off. One of his arms ripped off by this damn bear. They say that these bears had such powerful jaws that they could snap branches that were like this thick. He snapped his frickin' arm halfway off. It was just dangling on threads. And his eye was gouged out. The bear wrapped his jaws around his skull. And it slammed him into the ground a couple times. So Hopi's skull was on the ground. The bear had its jaws wrapped around its head and began just squeezing. And then his eyeball started bulging out. And his skull started to crack. Ah! He was like, release my spirit! He just yelled to his friend, just begging for mercy. Cheyenne saw his eyeball popping out of its socket, with blood coming out, his skull cracking. He's like, no, no. He was like, okay, stand still. He'd yell. He'd say, stand still, don't move. So Hopi was on the ground, and Hopi, he sort of stuck his face out a little bit right here, like he wanted him to hit him right in the forehead. Cheyenne, he leaned back. He was like, okay. He was like, I'll release your spirit. He was like, I don't know. He said something meaningful. I can't remember what it was, but whew, and he swung the axe as hard as it could, and the thing just goes flying through the air like this. And then I hope you could just hear it hissing to the wind. And then it went right by Hopi's skull. He's sticking his skull like this, hoping it hits him in the skull, but it nails him right in the shoulder. And just the shriek that he lets out was piercing. Even the bear was startled. The bear's eyes widened, and it let him go for a moment. And Hopi was there then with his axe stuck right here in his shoulder, and it dug a couple inches in, piercing his lung. Blood started spraying out. Yeah, Cheyenne missed. All right. And it was unusual for him to do that. And the bear was startled by this. The bear's eyes got wide, and it lunged back a little bit. And then it noticed the boy was still in panic and peril. So the bear reached down again and grabbed him and started slamming him into the ground. Slamming him into the ground. I mean, yeah, that's one of the things is you just, sometimes you just got to laugh at this stuff. It's the only way for self-preservation, you know? You either die out of fear or you laugh in the face of terror. I'm sure these boys weren't laughing that night, though. So the bear mangled his body even more. He had this damn axe just sticking out of his chest. The bear began crushing his skull. Both of his eyeballs started poking out. The bear wrapped its big jaw around his scad like this and started squeezing his eyes up. And his eye just started popping out. Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe that something like this actually happened. But then that's when Cheyenne decided to come in again. Hopi was like, like Hopi wasn't even able to beg for mercy at this point. He was laying flat on his back. He wasn't even protecting himself anymore. And the bear just started eating, but he was making gurgling sounds. You could hear, you could hear that he was like, he might have been paralyzed. The bear might have severed his spinal cord somewhere in this treacherous turmoil. The ground around him looked like a rototiller went through it. It was just dug up everywhere, blood and dirt. The bear was a mess, just dirt all over its face, blood just dripping from its fangs. Its claws were red with blood from this boy. And that's when Cheyenne took his other axe. He took his second axe. And he held back. And then boom, 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 boom. And that's when it got him. Right on his forehead. Right where he was aiming before, and his skull split a little bit. You could see, I mean, I don't want to get into the details, but it took him out. It sounded like a pop or a crack, like lightning. And it stuck into his forehead, right between his eyes. And his body let out a gasp. And they, I think that's what they were going on about, releasing the spirit. It felt like something released from him. He was like tense, and then, and it was just, it's like the spirit released from him. He was on his back. And at that point, the bear lost some excitement. It started ragging his body around, just wanting a response, but there was not much of a response at that point. So Cheyenne, of course, turns and runs home. He runs and he doesn't look back. He tells his community about this massive bear and what happened. He got scolded by the elders that they were out playing those risky games. And he was punished for that severely. The elders decided not to go hunt the bear because they knew that the boys were screwing with it, you know? That Cheyenne lived with that shame for the rest of his life, but nonetheless, I don't know, I think he moved past and he was forgiven, but it's just, you know, sometimes you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. But I mean, like I said, I mean, they were young boys, and that's just what young boys do, you know? They think that they're invincible. And these boys were good at what they did. But sometimes things just don't go the way as planned, you know? Sometimes chaos ensues and the unpredictable occurs. And I think that's what this story's kind of about. But anyway, if you guys will like this video, hit the thumbs up button, become a patron if you want to support Chilling Tales. And thank you all for your support. And I'll see you all tomorrow with more Chilling Tales from the Iceman.